Prop 8 banned gay marriage, but one California man thinks it hadn't gone far enough. He wants to protect the sanctity of marriage, and you won't believe how he wants to do it. A gunman walks into a bank and screams, "Give me all your money." Minutes later, he is on his knees praying and asking for forgiveness. And we've all broken the rules of the road, Maria Shriver included, but few of us have ever done this. Matter of fact, none of us have ever done this. Somebody please tell the driver of this SUV they're not driving a tank. Hello again. This is a legal question. It's also an ethical and moral question. It's being debated in Los Angeles today. 37-year-old Joshua Woodward was arrested on suspicion of murder. Police believe he murdered his unborn child. This is what they're calling the murder scene. He was arrested after suspicious circumstances of a miscarriage. Investigators estimate the fetus was in its 13th week. Here's attorney Royal Oakes.
So they sidestepped the abortion debate, but they did protect the fetus. That means that this person could be charged with murder, not manslaughter, because the legislature didn't actually change the manslaughter law. But if, in fact, he intended to kill the fetus, or if he knew that she was pregnant and was indifferent to whether or not the fetus lived or died, he could be charged in the death of the fetus.
RonKayLA.com, Ron Kaye, and Doctor of Social Ethics, Charlotte Laws. Charlotte, now the moral and ethical question. If life begins at the time of conception, and this was an intentional act, it's murder. What about those who believe it doesn't happen that way? Is it still murder?
Well, I kind of, with regards to the legal issue, I know there are a bunch of states that do consider it murder if you do it at any time, and I found about 12 states. And in California, it seems like they're saying that it's killing if it's after the embryonic stage, which is 8 weeks. I think that probably it is murder, and I think probably the woman whose baby or embryo died, I think is probably going to feel the same way. I would definitely want her input on this. But I think it's, I think legally, I think he can be prosecuted for murder. And in Texas, a couple of years ago, there was a very similar case in which a man went to prison for murder, for killing a woman's baby or infant, before the baby was born. And he appealed and appealed. It went up to the Texas Supreme Court, and the Texas Supreme Court said that it's not in conflict with Roe versus Wade. So it is perfectly legal in various states, and it seems to be legal to charge someone with murder in California, as far as my reading. I'm not an attorney, but that's my reading, and I think that should be the case.
Rod?
Well, we don't know exactly what happened, but the implication of him being arrested on suspicion of murder is that he did overt and real acts that caused the baby the woman to miscarry for whatever reasons. I love the idea that he had business interests in Miami and Chicago.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know. It sounds like some mobster I once knew, but it really captures the contradiction on an issue that goes back to my college days 50 years ago that never have made any sense. I mean, it's a living thing. Any parent who, the wife comes home and says, "I'm pregnant," everybody in the family's overjoyed at the prospects of life. The question is we societally believe that abortion in the first trimester is a necessary thing to do, yet we've never really engaged the subject. We still fight about it as if it was 50 years ago. And among the contradictions are these laws. As you point out, there's no manslaughter provision for neglect rather than an overt act to kill the fetus. It's hard to know, but I mean, if he really did terrible things to cause the woman to be a miscarriage, they ought to throw the whole book at him.
Right.
If it was more neglectful, then you kind of assume they'll find lesser charges. But for me, it really points up our inability to be honest, straightforward, and to come to some sort of common agreement that here's what the law is, here's what we need to do societally, and to get on with solving all these much more immediate issues that affect all of our lives all the time.
There are many, many abortions. There are 3,700 abortions per day in the United States and 115,000 in the world. I was really astonished with those figures. About 83% of the ones in the world come from developing countries rather than developed countries. But for so many to be occurring, obviously society has made a stand with regards to the moral issue. A large number of people have. And it's a very difficult problem, though, just the same.
All right, we'll keep an eye on this. Let's move on.